On a $1.2 billion construction project, what if the most powerful thing isn't money, machines, or pressure, but a small moment of joy that brings everyone together? Hi everyone, hope you're having a great day. Today, we're going to explore a different side of a massive construction site with Linda and CEO Quang, where leadership is shown not through authority, but through connection and humanity. And if you enjoy this kind of story, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next videos. The construction site wakes up before the city does. Heavy machines hum low in the early morning, steel structures standing tall against the pale sky. Dust rises slowly as workers move into position, helmets on, boots hitting the ground in a familiar rhythm. From the outside, everything looks the same as it has for weeks. Disciplined, fast-paced, relentlessly focused. A billion-dollar project doesn't slow down for anyone. Linda arrives early, walking through the site with her helmet already on. Her steps are steady, but her eyes are softer than usual, taking in details she normally doesn't have time to notice. The tired posture of a worker stretching his back. Two engineers sharing a quiet joke before starting their shift. The way some people still carry the weight of pressure even before the day truly begins. Quang joins her a few moments later, phone in hand, finishing a call. Yes, the numbers are on track, he says calmly. We'll review it this afternoon. He ends the call and looks around. Everything's ready? Linda nods. Quietly, no announcements. Quang gives a small smile. Good. Let's keep it that way. There has been no official notice, no email, no message sent across departments. Just a quiet understanding between Linda and Quang that today doesn't need to be loud to be meaningful. As the morning progresses, something subtle begins to shift. Workers whisper to one another during short breaks. Supervisors exchange curious looks. Near the temporary rest area, a few large insulated containers are placed carefully in the shade. No branding, no banners, just simple metal boxes that clearly don't belong to the usual routine. What's that? Someone asks. No idea, another replies, but I heard Linda was involved. By late morning, curiosity spreads faster than dust in the air. Quang watches it all from a distance, arms crossed, expression neutral. On the surface, he looks like the same CEO everyone knows. Composed, controlled, always 10 steps ahead. But inside, he feels an unfamiliar tension. Not the kind that comes from deadlines or investors, but the kind that comes from stepping away from hierarchy. Linda walks over to him. Still time to stop this, you know. He shakes his head. If we're going to do it, we do it fully. At noon, Quang steps forward and speaks briefly. Take a break, he says evenly. Everyone, gather here. No long speech, no explanation. People hesitate, unsure. Then slowly, they move. Helmets come off, gloves are set aside. Engineers, workers, supervisors, all standing together in one open space. When the containers are opened, steam rises into the air, carrying the smell of simple, familiar food. Rice, soup, everyday dishes. For a moment, no one knows what to say. Linda is the first to move. She picks up a ladle, scoops food into a bowl, and hands it to a worker standing closest to her. Please, she says gently, eat while it's warm. That single gesture breaks the silence. People line up, awkward at first. A senior engineer steps back, letting workers go ahead. Someone laughs nervously. Another murmurs, "It's been a while since we ate like this." There is no head table, no VIP area. Quang takes a seat among the workers, placing his helmet on the ground beside him. He pours water into metal cups, passing them down the table without saying a word. A few people glance at him in disbelief, unsure how to react. One worker finally speaks. "Sir, Are you sure this is okay? Quang looks at him calmly. Today, yes. That's all. Conversation starts slowly, then grows more natural. Someone talks about the heat. Another mentions how long it's been since they had a proper lunch break. Laughter slips in, unexpected but genuine. Linda moves quietly between tables, not directing, not supervising, just listening. She hears stories about long commutes, sore backs, children waiting at home. She notices how people straighten slightly when she remembers their names. A young engineer says softly, "I thought projects like this were only about numbers." Quang hears him. "They are," he replies, "until you realize numbers don't build anything on their own." The engineer nods, thoughtful. For Linda, this moment feels fragile, almost unreal. She knows tomorrow the pressure will return. Reports, meetings, expectations from people who will never set foot on this site. But today matters. Someone suggests taking a group photo. At first, people hesitate. Dusty clothes, tired faces, mismatched helmets. Then someone laughs and says, "This is exactly how we look every day." They gather, uneven rows, shoulders touching. No perfect smiles, just honest ones. As the camera clicks, Linda feels a quiet warmth settle in her chest. Not pride, not relief, something deeper, belonging. When the break ends, people return to work without being told. The site comes back to life, machines roaring again. But the energy has changed, lighter, steadier, more human. Linda stands beside Quang, watching. "Do you think this will last?" she asks softly. Quang doesn't answer right away. "Long enough," he says finally. Sometimes that's all people need. They put their helmets back on and step forward. The project continues, but something invisible has been built today, and it might turn out to be stronger than concrete. The afternoon sun presses down harder than it did in the morning. The heat settles into the concrete, into the steel, into tired shoulders and aching hands. Machines roar back to life, cranes swing slowly across the sky, and the construction site returns to its familiar rhythm. But something has changed. It's subtle at first, almost easy to miss. A supervisor pauses before raising his voice, then doesn't. A worker notices a loose cable and fixes it without waiting to be told. Two engineers stand a little closer together as they review a drawing, pointing, discussing, agreeing. The work is the same, the energy is not. Quang walks the site quietly, hands clasped behind his back. He doesn't interrupt, he doesn't direct, he simply observes. What he sees surprises him more than he expected. People are moving with intention, not fear-driven urgency, not mechanical obedience, but a steady, focused effort that feels chosen. A site manager approaches him mid-afternoon. "We adjusted the workflow for Section C," the man says. "The team suggested it after lunch. It's safer and saves time." Quang raises an eyebrow. "You ran it through engineering?" "Yes," everyone agreed. No hesitation, no defensiveness. "Good," Quang replies. "Proceed." As the manager walks away, Quang exhales slowly. He knows better than anyone that productivity can be forced. But this is different. This is ownership. Across the site, Linda is standing with a small group near a partially completed structure. They're discussing a minor alignment issue. Nothing urgent, nothing critical. Yet the discussion is open, animated. An older worker clears his throat. "We've always done it this way," he says. "But today, I think we could try something else." Linda doesn't dismiss him. She doesn't rush. "Show me," she says. He explains, gesturing with rough hands that have built more than most people ever will. The idea is simple, practical, grounded in experience. Linda listens carefully, then nods. "Let's try it." she says. If it works, we'll update the process. The man blinks, surprised, not by the decision, but by how easily his voice was accepted. As the afternoon wears on, fatigue returns. Sweat darkens shirts. Muscles tighten. The reality of the job doesn't disappear just because morale improves. But when someone slows down, no one complains. When a mistake happens, it's corrected without blame. Linda steps back into the shade for a moment, watching the site breathe. She knows this feeling won't last forever. She isn't naive enough to believe a single lunch can erase pressure, hierarchy, or exhaustion, but it can remind people why they stay. A young worker approaches her hesitantly, helmet in his hands. "Ms. Linda, may I say something?" "Of course." He shifts his weight. "I've worked on many big projects, but today was the first time I felt like I mattered. Like I wasn't just filling a role." Linda feels a quiet tightness in her chest. She keeps her voice steady. "You've always mattered," she says. "Today was just a reminder." He nods, visibly relieved, and walks away. From a distance, Quang watches the exchange. When Linda turns back toward him, their eyes meet. No words are needed. As the sun begins to lower, long shadows stretch across the site. The heat eases slightly. The pace naturally slows as teams finish their final tasks. Tools are cleaned. Equipment is secured. No announcement marks the end of the day. People simply know. They gather their things, exchanging brief goodbyes. Someone laughs near the gate. Another promises to bring homemade snacks tomorrow. Small promises, but real ones. When the site finally quiets, only Linda and Quang remain. The tables from lunch are gone. Only faint marks on the ground hint that something different happened here today. Linda walks slowly across the open space, stopping where the group photo was taken. She imagines the moment. Mismatched helmets, tired smiles, honest laughter. "Do you think this was risky?" she asks softly. Quang doesn't hesitate. "Only if you believe care is a weakness." She smiles at that. They walk toward the edge of the site, where the scale of the project becomes impossible to ignore. Steel and concrete rise toward the sky, a monument to ambition, money, and expectation. When people talk about a $1.2 billion project, Quang says quietly, they talk about schedules, costs, reputations. He pauses, but days like this don't appear in reports. And yet, they're the reason everything else works. Linda nods. Maybe leadership isn't about pushing people harder. Maybe, Quang agrees. It's about letting them breathe just long enough. The sky deepens from gold to blue. Site lights flicker on, illuminating what remains unfinished. Tomorrow will bring meetings, deadlines, pressure from people who will never step foot here. But today did something irreversible. It reminded everyone, including Linda and Quang, that this project isn't built by machines or money alone. It's built by people who, for one day, felt seen. As they leave the site together, Linda glances back one last time. "Same time tomorrow?" she asks lightly. Quang smiles. "Tomorrow we plan. Tonight, we remember." They walk away, their footsteps fading beyond the gate. Behind them, the project stands a little stronger, not because of what was built today, but because of what was shared.
đêm đến, Linda nấu cơm nếp cẩm mời anh ở lại ăn. Hai người trò chuyện lòng ấm lại. Quang kể áp lực công ty, camera nháy sáng, bóng lạ thoáng qua, và không biết Linda có sống sót qua được đêm nay không. Mọi người nếu nếu thấy video hay, hãy cho mình một like, một subscribe. Cảm ơn mọi người nhé.